If you own a house right now, there's an $83 trillion problem coming your way, and no one's talking about it. Let me explain this like you're 5. Imagine you have a toy, a really expensive toy. You paid everything you had for it. You took care of it for 30 years, and when you're ready to sell it, no one wants to buy it. Not because it's broken, but because there are too many toys and not enough kids. That's the American housing market in about 10 years. Let me tell you a story. There's a guy named Tom. Tom is 68 years old. He lives in a 4-bedroom house in Ohio. Paid off, worth about $400,000 on paper. Tom's plan is simple. Retire at 70, sell the house, move somewhere warm, live off the proceeds. Classic American dream. But Tom has a problem he doesn't see yet. His neighbor, Steve, just died. Steve's kids inherited his house. They don't want it. They live in cities. They work remotely. They listed immediately. 2 streets over, another house just hit the market. Same story. Inheritance. No takers. Now there are 3 similar homes for sale in a neighborhood where usually 1 sells per year. Tom thinks this is temporary. It's not. This is the beginning of the largest wealth transfer in human history. $83 trillion. That's how much the baby boomer generation is going to pass down over the next 20 years. Most of it is locked in real estate. And here's the thing nobody wants to say out loud. Gen Z doesn't want it. Let me explain why. When you're 5, you believe things stay the same forever. Your house is always your house. Your parents are always young. Summer lasts forever. But then you grow up and realize everything changes. The boomers bought homes when houses cost 3 times the average salary. Now they cost 8 times. They bought when mortgage rates were 12%, but wages were rising fast. They bought in neighborhoods that mattered because you had to live near your job. Gen Z works from a laptop. They don't need to be in Ohio or Michigan or any of the places where boomers built their wealth. They need fast internet and low cost of living. That's it. Here's where it gets interesting. Tom's house isn't just competing with Steve's house. It's competing with 70 million other houses that are about to flood the market as boomers downsize, move to care facilities, or pass away. 70 million. That's not a typo. And Gen Z is only 68 million. Even if every single Gen Z wanted to buy a house, which they don't, the math doesn't work. Now let me tell you what Tom doesn't know. His biggest asset is becoming his biggest liability. Because he's not just selling a house, he's selling a lifestyle that doesn't exist anymore. The white picket fence, the 2-car garage, the big backyard, the 30-year mortgage. Gen Z watched their parents lose homes in 2008. They graduated into the worst job market in decades. They have student debt their parents never imagined, and they saw housing prices double while their wages stayed flat. So when Tom puts his house on the market, he's not just selling to a smaller generation. He's selling to a generation that fundamentally doesn't believe in his dream. They'd rather rent flexibility than own responsibility. They'd rather invest in index funds than lawn care. They'd rather travel than renovate. This isn't a moral judgment. It's just what happened. You can't sell someone a dream they watched become a nightmare. Now here's the part that makes this really interesting. Tom still thinks his house will sell, because it always has. In his lifetime, real estate only went up. Sure, there was 2008, but that recovered. This time is different. This isn't a market crash. This is a market shift. Crashes recover. Shifts are permanent. When you're 5 and your favorite toy breaks, you think it can be fixed. Sometimes it can't. Sometimes you just need a different toy. That's where we are. The entire financial system is built on the assumption that real estate finds a buyer. Banks lend against it. Retirement plans depend on it. Local governments tax it. But what happens when the buyers disappear? Not because of a recession, but because of demographics, because of culture, because the next generation simply wants different things. Tom's about to find out. And so are 60 million other homeowners just like him. The villain in this story isn't Gen Z. It's time itself. And time doesn't care about your investment thesis. So where does this leave Tom? Standing in his living room, looking at Zillow, wondering why his house has been on the market for 4 months. He's dropped the price twice. Still nothing. His realtor keeps saying the same thing. Be patient. The right buyer will come. But Tom's starting to panic because his neighbor's house just dropped another $20,000. And now there's a fifth house for sale on his street. This is where the story gets uncomfortable. Tom calls his daughter, Lisa. She's 32, lives in Austin, rents a 1-bedroom apartment. Tom asks her the question he's been avoiding. Would you ever want the house? Lisa pauses. She loves her dad. She grew up in that house. But she doesn't want it. She can't afford the property taxes. She doesn't want to mow the lawn. She doesn't want to be tied to Ohio. And here's the thing Tom really doesn't want to hear. Even if the house was free, Lisa would probably sell it, because maintaining a house costs $15,000 a year. Insurance, taxes, repairs, utilities. That's $15,000 Lisa would rather put into her Roth IRA. Tom feels betrayed. But Lisa isn't the villain here either. She's just playing a different game with different rules. Let me explain the game that changed. When Tom was 30, owning a home meant you made it. It meant stability, status, wealth building. The American dream was a formula. Get a job, buy a house, stay 30 years, retire rich. That formula worked because everything aligned. Pensions existed. Jobs were stable. Healthcare was affordable. One income could support a family. Now, Lisa has switched jobs 4 times in 10 years. She has no pension. Her healthcare costs $600 a month. And she knows she'll probably work until she's 70. Owning a house in Ohio doesn't solve any of her problems. It creates new ones. Here's what happened while Tom was building equity. The world completely reorganized itself. Technology made location irrelevant. Globalization made career stability impossible. Financialization made everything more expensive except wages. And social media made everyone realize the life their parents sold them was just one option, not the only option. Tom's house represented freedom to him. To Lisa, it represents a trap. Now multiply this conversation by 60 million. That's how many families are about to have this exact same talk. And this is where the magic lesson comes in, the lesson nobody wants to learn. Your house is not an investment. It never was. It was a place to live that happened to go up in value because demand always exceeded supply. But that equation is reversing. Let me show you what this looks like in numbers. In 1990, there were 76 million boomers buying homes. In 2030, there will be 68 million Gen Z potentially buying homes. That's 8 million fewer buyers. But here's the real problem. Boomers own 32 million homes. Gen Z currently owns 4 million. You don't need to be an economist to see what happens next. Massive supply, shrinking demand. Prices fall. But it gets worse because Gen Z isn't just smaller, they're poorer. The median boomer had a net worth of $90,000 at age 35. The median millennial has a net worth of $40,000 at the same age. Gen Z is tracking even lower. So you have fewer buyers with less money competing for more houses than ever before. This is the inverse of what made Tom rich. Tom bought when demand was exploding and supply was limited. Lisa is being asked to buy when supply is exploding and demand is collapsing. Tom got lucky. Lisa got screwed. And the entire financial system is pretending this isn't happening. Banks are still lending as if prices will rise forever. Realtors are still pricing as if buyers have no other options. Financial advisors are still saying real estate is the safest investment. But the smartest people in the room are starting to notice. Blackstone just sold off billions in residential real estate. They're not idiots. They can read a demographic chart. When the biggest real estate investors in the world start selling to retail investors, you should pay attention. That's not a coincidence. That's a transfer. They're getting out before everyone realizes the party's over. And Tom? Tom's holding the bag. Not because he did anything wrong, but because he believed a story that was only true for one generation. His. Now he's about to learn what every 5-year-old eventually learns. The game always changes, and the winners of the last game rarely win the next one. So what does Tom do now? He's 70 years old. His retirement plan is crumbling, and his house won't sell. This is the transformation part of the story, the part where the hero has to make a choice. Tom can keep waiting for a buyer who believes his story, or he can accept reality and play a new game. Most people choose denial. Tom almost does too, but then something happens. He talks to his friend Richard. Richard sold his house 6 months ago, took a $100,000 loss, moved into a small condo near his grandkids. Tom asks him if he regrets it. Richard laughs. "Best decision I ever made," he says. "I was holding on to a museum of my past. Now I'm living my present." This is the mentor moment, the moment when someone who already crossed the bridge tells you the water's fine. Richard explains something Tom never considered. The house was costing him $30,000 a year to maintain. Property taxes, insurance, repairs, heating, cooling. $30,000 to live in 4,000 square feet he didn't use. The condo costs him $12,000 a year all in. He's saving $18,000 annually. In 5 years, that's $90,000, almost the entire loss he took on the sale. Plus, he's happier, less stress, less maintenance, more time. Tom realizes something. He's been measuring wealth wrong. He thought wealth was the number on the appraisal, but wealth is what you can actually use, and he can't use 4 bedrooms and a 2-car garage. This is the choice. Hold the asset and bleed money, or sell the asset and buy freedom. Tom lists the house again. This time he prices it to sell, $30,000 below the last offer. It hurts, but 3 weeks later he gets a buyer. Not a family, not even a person, a hedge fund converting it to a rental. Tom doesn't care. He takes the money, buys a small place in Arizona, banks the difference, and for the first time in years, he sleeps well. Because he's not waiting for someone to validate his past anymore. He's living in his present. This is the payoff, not the money, the peace. Now let's talk about what this means for you. If you're Tom, the lesson is simple. Don't let your identity be tied to an asset. Your house is not you. It's a thing you own, and things lose value. If you're Lisa, the lesson is different. Don't buy someone else's dream just because they're selling it cheap. Buy what fits your life, not their nostalgia. And if you're somewhere in between, pay attention, because this shift is going to create opportunities and traps. The opportunities are obvious. Housing will get cheaper in certain markets, not everywhere, not the places people want to be, but the places people are leaving. Those will collapse. Entire towns built around industries that don't exist anymore. Suburbs designed for commuters who now work from home. Retirement communities in states young people are fleeing. Those places are going to see housing prices fall 30, 40, 50%. If you're smart, you'll avoid them. If you're greedy, you'll think you're getting a deal. You're not. You're catching a falling knife. The traps are less obvious. Banks will keep lending as if nothing's changed. Realtors will keep saying it's always a good time to buy. Your parents will keep insisting real estate is the safest investment. They're all wrong. Not because they're lying, but because they're playing yesterday's game. Here's the rule I want you to remember. When everyone older than you insists something is a sure thing, check the demographics, because sure things only stay sure if the conditions that made them sure stay the same. And conditions never stay the same. Tom learned this at 70. You can learn it now. The $83 trillion inheritance isn't a gift. It's a test of whether you can see through the story you were sold. The boomers built wealth in real estate because the math worked for them. It won't work for you. Not in the same way, not in the same places, not with the same assumptions. You need a different strategy. Maybe that's index funds. Maybe that's starting a business. Maybe that's living in low-cost countries while earning American dollars. I don't know your answer, but I know it's not buying Tom's house and hoping it appreciates. That game is over. And the sooner you accept that, the sooner you can play the game that's actually happening. Tom's house is still standing. It'll probably stand for another 50 years. But the world it was built for? That world already ended, and no amount of granite countertops will bring it back. If this changed how you think about money, maybe share it with someone who needs to hear it. And if you want to understand the next financial shift before it hits, stick around, because the world's changing faster than most people realize, and the ones who see it coming do better than the ones who don't.